What's up, my beautiful basketball fans? Y'all know what time it is. It is Running with WARR, all things basketball talk. We're going to start the show off, though, three-man weave in this mug. Everybody going to be on this show today. You're going to get the whole crew. But right now, we're going to three-man weave this thing because clearly, it's just a special hour. We have a special hour. As you can see, we have a very special guest that has joined our show. So, obviously, I got to give it up for our guest, who is Stephanie Strempluski, who is the planner for NBC Universal. She's going three-man with us for the first hour with the celebrity over here, Chris, because, he's just that guy, clearly.
Stop him.
I mean, it's true. I haven't been on TV to do game shows more than once or any time in my life. So that is something you have clearly beat a lot of people, including me, in, and for that, I applaud you, my man. I applaud you. We'll tap on that a little bit later on down the show. But I got to start off with some WNBA talk because, unfortunately, the Chi-Town City, baby, we lost our run. It was a good time. It was a great last dance. We had our last dance in Chicago. And before we jump into the sky, we got to go to the ones that actually won the whole thing. The Las Vegas Aces, they came up there and didn't do what I wanted them to do. I wanted them to sweep the Sun, but they gave them one game. I mean, they gave them a gentleman's sweep. I can live with that. Came through and gentleman's sweep the Connecticut Sun. So that way, Becky Hammon, Coach of the Year, she won her first championship as the first season as a head coach, period, in WNBA. Asia Wilson, who was the Defensive Player of the Year as well as the MVP this year, got her ring finally after that tough, devastating loss last season. You got others like Chelsea Gray, who won the Finals MVP. And you got others like Kelsey Plum, who recently was very advocate about her mental health issues and what she had to overcome to even get to this point, who is now a champion as well. I mean, I think congratulations to the Aces. It was a heck of a season for them. You kind of knew the writing was etched in stone per se when it came from a competition perspective in comparison to the Sky for the Throne, and you knew that Becky Hammon wasn't going to play any games coming from the NBA to where she is in the WNBA now, running the show. You knew it was going to be tough, but she made a prime example of what it means to turn a culture around as quickly as she did with the Aces. Got to give her mad props to that. Stephanie, I gotta ask you: Did you watch the finals, and what was your reaction to the Aces winning the whole thing? Especially since Chi-Town fans, we didn't make it as far as we could have this season.
Yeah, I pretty much watched every single game. And the semifinals, in my opinion, Aces versus Seattle, that was my absolute favorite series by far. I actually wish that could have been the finals. It was outstanding. Very close there. It could have went either way. That game 3, when I think it was the last 11 or 10 seconds of the game, and each team combined scored 10 points or something. It went into overtime. That last Sue Bird, oh my God, it was either a 2 or a 3, and she looked like, I think it was a 2, and it was 92-90, something like that. Oh my gosh. I mean, I jumped in the air, but that was actually one of the most watched games of the entire WNBA Finals. So, let's just be honest here. I'm a Chicago fan. We all wanted to see a repeat, sure, but there wasn't any way that the Aces weren't going to win. I knew they were going to get to the finals. I actually wrote on paper on August 17th when the playoffs began that it was going to be Sky versus Aces, and I was hoping to attend at least a couple games there. Didn't go my way, but the Aces, out of all 12 teams, right, they had the most accolades. They're led by one of the most gifted basketball minds, Becky Hammon. And shout out to them, for being the first Las Vegas sports team to ever bring a title to the city. So just absolutely historic year. Kelsey Plum especially has one of the greatest comeback stories, in my opinion, coming from, I believe, a torn ACL a couple of years ago. And, adding the Olympic gold and now championship, she had an incredible year. Chelsea Gray, Asia Wilson, those were the top three, in my opinion, that just were absolutely stellar. And then, of course, Gabby Williams in the last couple minutes there at Game 4, just outstanding. So congratulations to the Aces. And their parade, by the way, I don't know if you guys watched it.
Man,
I wanted to be there so bad. Oh my gosh. I think they were still drunk from Sunday's celebration.
Most definitely.
I don't blame them. I'll be drunk as heck too. They gonna make, especially. Did you see the photos though? Those smooth photos of Kelsey Plum smoking a cigar. So smooth. It's so legendary. I will literally ask the person who I want someone to print that for me. I will put that in my office. It'll be right here. One right here. It'll be in my office. Smooth. It's just beautiful. It was such a beautiful photo of what it means to be a champion, right? And Chris, obviously we know you're all in, the ins and outs of the WNBA and everything. Just watching the playoffs play out, I agree with Steph. Seattle was the big series that really had you at the edge of your seats as that series played out, and you warned us. I got to give you props on this, Mr. WNBA Insider. You definitely warned us that Seattle was going to be the one team that's going to make a little bit of noise and cause the Aces some havoc. They definitely did a little bit of that. So go in depth as far as what was your thoughts behind watching that series as well as the WNBA as a whole when it came to the playoff runs that took place leading up to the Aces winning the title.
The Seattle series had so many it had storylines with it, I think, just because of the fact that it was the old guard and Sue Bird and Breon January and even Tina Charles, too, who is a veteran in the league, going up against a younger team with Asia Wilson and Kelsey Plum, the people leading the way, Jackie Young. I don't want to forget Jewel Lloyd. She's a younger player, too. But, Sue and Stewie and Tina Charles are veterans of the team. And those aforementioned two players won championships with Seattle. So it was kind of that changing of the guard, passing of the torch, that kind of storyline. Plus, Seattle was one of the best defensive teams in the league all season long. And it seemed like the last 2 years when I was my short time with the Next, when I've been working with James Kay on the Skyhook, it seemed like so many people wanted to count Seattle out as just being past the time or other teams were going to be better. And that's what we saw from the Aces the last 3, maybe even 4 seasons. As soon as they got Asia Wilson and as soon as they brought in Liz Cambage, I remember Shea Serrano, who was not a WNBA, at the forefront of the coverage of the league, but he was like, this is why this team is going to win the championship. His article was about how Dearica Hamby made such a difference for them. But the Aces were the uncrowned champion for the last 3 or 4 seasons. And Seattle had taken that title in 2020. So that series was going to be cool. It was going to be so interesting. You have a boatload of dedicated, passionate fans in each fan base. And like Steph said, Game 3 absolutely lived up to its billing. I had the game on. We had the Stephanie Talbot quarter of the playoffs where she went. I think she scored 11 or 12 in that quarter and was raining threes from the corner. And I was like, wow, Seattle's going to go up 2-1. And I left the room and came back. And it was I think it was a 1 or 2 point game. I was like, what just happened? And then I watched from there to the end of regulation through overtime, and it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. I think somewhere somebody still is begging for Ezzy to put her hands up so Jackie Young doesn't get a free layup like she did. But that series was incredible. I as a Sky fan, as a Sky cover, I hesitate to say I want that or that should have been the finals matchup. But yeah, the Connecticut-Chicago series was extremely plotting. But it's a series for the ages. Nobody's ever going to forget that.
Most definitely, man. Especially when you talk about not just the performance. We talked about how, obviously, from Seattle's side, what they brought to the table to make it such a series for the Aces to overcome. But when you talk about the Aces side and the veteran leadership that came from that side, more specifically Chelsea Gray, In that same game that we're talking about with Game 3, she went nuts in the fourth quarter and overtime. I want to say she scored like 20-some points within the fourth quarter and overtime to reel them back and lead them to that win. And then she just took over from the playoffs in general. It just seemed like since she got that All-Star snub, she took that very personally. And came back and put on a performance for the second half of the season that's one to remember and led to her being the Finals MVP. Real quick, Chris, I want you to highlight the importance of Chelsea Gray and what she really brought to that team, especially from the second half of the season leading up to the playoffs, that really helped put the Aces over the hump in ways they haven't been able to in previous seasons.
Ask any Los Angeles Sparks fan how they feel about Chelsea Gray's performance in the playoffs, and they'll tell you outright. They are still sore at Derek Fisher for running Candace and Chelsea out of Los Angeles. It's hard to put into perspective because we really haven't seen anything like that before in any platform, in any gender, in any league, what Chelsea Gray did in the playoffs. I don't have the exact numbers, but her true shooting percentage was absolutely otherworldly. Like, she was not missing those first two rounds. And then I think she only slowed down when Vegas's lack of depth, which was their only hindrance, and it only came up in the last two games of the season. And Connecticut was able to play the kind of defense that they wanted. And that was really the only time we saw a limited performance from Chelsea Gray. Otherwise, she was absolutely unstoppable at nearly all levels, in the paint, in the mid-range, and on the perimeter. And that was really necessary because Kelsey Plum went a bit cold at the beginning of the series. It seemed like maybe the season caught up to her somewhat. And then Jackie Young didn't have a great series shooting-wise as well. So they absolutely needed that from Chelsea Gray alongside Asia Wilson's game.
Yeah, I just want to chime in and say it honestly felt like Chelsea Gray didn't miss a three. She was like kind of looking like Steph Curry. I like nicknamed the team the Las Vegas Graces at one point. Just absolutely.
I love that name.
Okay, cool. I tweeted it. I tweeted that to her. She did not respond. Just want everyone to know. No, I'm just kidding. But she was absolutely on fire. I mean, there are times, obviously, when you watch a game, got to get your drink, got to get your food, whatever. You don't want to step away from the game. But every time I would step back, the announcers would be like, and Gray hits the three. Like, she just barely missed a three. That series would have looked a whole lot different if she went cold or if she were injured. I mean, she was really the megastar, in my opinion. MVP award was so well-deserved. I really can't believe, she was snubbed by the All-Stars, but I really think that sort of feel ignited, especially in the Commissioner's Cup when she was the MVP there. That's when they rocked Chicago. That wasn't a very fun game to watch, but, I started really becoming fascinated by the Aces when I watched the All-Star game. And a lot of players, Asia, Kelsey was the MVP for the All-Star game. And I said, this team, they have a lot of young talent. And they're not just young and making rookie mistakes and learning, like, they're really good. And something that I want to highlight, something that James Wade said in a recent post-game press conference, he said that, teams that never won a championship before are hungry. And that's exactly why the Sky won last year. And I don't want to say that they didn't have motivation this year, but I will say that Connecticut and the Aces, neither one of them won a championship. So that's why this series was even more exciting, because both teams really showed that hunger. Las Vegas, in my opinion, showed it more. I think just in general, they have way more talent. But that quote that Wade said really stuck with me. And there's a lot of other factors that you can weigh in as well. But I really do think that Connecticut and Las Vegas were really playing their hearts out.
Well, hey, that's what happens when you hit the slot machine, roll the dice a little bit, and you mess around and say, "Win, baby, win!" Like, come on now, that's what happens. You win, baby, win. But now they have won.
You threw all those in there. Shout out to Al Davis.
Shout out to Al Davis, baby. But because obviously his son is the owner of the Aces, so it fits perfectly, right? But the crazy part is they actually won. So now that they won, next year is going to be a heck of a ride for a repeat. As Chicago Sky fans know how difficult that is to repeat, and it hasn't been done in a very long time. I forgot the exact number of years it's been done. However, it's been
20 years.
Yeah,
20 years since
Sparks.
right. So since that happened, so because of that, I'm gonna go back to you with this stuff. Do you really believe? First of all, we can't dismiss the impact of Becky Hammon changing the culture of that Aces franchise. But how difficult is it for her to re-up on that same emphasis, that intensity that she brought, being the first-year head coach and GM of that franchise? Like, how much of pressure is it really on Becky to follow through again and bring another championship to the Aces?
Well, it's hard to repeat anything. If you do something great, it's always hard to repeat. You can barely copy that, do it again. That's why repeat championships are so insanely difficult. That's why we'll probably never see anything like the Bulls championships ever again. But something that, and I bring up a lot of quotes here, but something that somebody asked Sue Bird in a press conference, and she said once was, you can have all the same players, you can have the most talented players on the team, but things aren't always going to go right. There's a little bit of luck involved on top of talent. People can get injured, people can mentally not feel well, or just make a dumb play even though they've made the same shots for years. There's always some sort of factor that can change. So yes, repeats in general are just really difficult, but if there was anybody that was going to do it, it would be Becky Hammon. And I put my money where my mouth is. I would bet it all on Becky Hammon. Just absolutely incredible. Like, we mentioned this briefly when we first met, but I'm sort of new to watching WNBA, so I wasn't really as familiar as many people were with Becky Hammon when I was really watching this season. But I've just been insanely impressed, like game in and game out, with Becky Hammon, how she is behind the scenes in practices, how she is on the court, and really that game 3 of the semifinals, like, will forever blow my mind and was one of the best games of basketball I have ever watched. So I'm excited to see what she does next year, who's coming back, who's leaving, if there are going to be any trades. Las Vegas, yeah, make it to the playoffs again. I can see it. Maybe even actually win a second title, and maybe even a third. Who knows? I won't go that far. But I'm excited to see what she can do.
All right, Bron. All right, LeBron. You talking about not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6?
Hey, she can win 6. I mean, I'm not knocking anything. I'm not knocking it. Everyone says it might not ever happen again. We don't know that. I mean, come on. No, realistically, she does have a chance. Her and her team really do have a chance for a repeat championship, no doubt about it. I'd like to see the Sky in there again, but a lot of talk is centered around Candace Parker, if she's going to return or not. Back in May, she said that she was playing out this year, like it could be her last. She did mention that she wouldn't want to retire and sort of get all the praises that like Sue Bird and Sylvia Fowles sort of got, the send-offs at different stadiums this year. Parker said she kind of wants to go out quietly. So I kind of had a feeling that maybe if they happen to win, if they happen to defend the title this year, that maybe she'd be on the court with Holly Rowe and just say, "I'm done, Holly. Like, that's it. I'm hanging it up." And like, imagine like the articles and like that would just be the talk of the town. But I think that would just be so Candace Parker's vibe, just to do that and basically to say peace out and just leave. But in my opinion, I want to get your opinions on this as well. But in my opinion, I think that Candace is going to come back. I think she's at least got 1 or 2, at least one. I'm going to say minimum 1. And she's going to come back. And I don't think she has anything to prove. She's one of the greatest basketball players of all time, has the most awards, some of the most awards in WNBA history. But I think that, she kind of, again, not has something to prove, but she wants to, show herself that she can continue playing the sport that she loves. See how her body handles it, see how her mind handles it. I really do think she's got 1 year left, and then she'll quietly leave, but we won't see the last of her. She'll definitely still continue broadcasting, and we'll see her time and time again.
I wonder about that, Steph. That's an interesting way to look. James and I discussed this on the Skyhook. I think the episode's coming out soon if it hasn't already. But I was reminded of some former players on the NBA. I think it was on court or off court, that the offseason show that Ernie would host with former NBA players. And there was a question that came up with the guys on. It was like, when did you know it was time to hang it up? And there was a few good answers. Isaiah Thomas, I think, had the best one, where he said that he usually would kind of like sit by his pool or just out on the deck or whatever before the games, and then he would get ready for the game. Once it was game time, he had like either an alarm or just an internal clock, and he would know, okay, it's time to get ready to go. And there was one day he was sitting out there, and he just didn't want to leave the pool, and he was like, "That's when I knew it was time." And I was saying on the show, Candace, I'm sure she has a space out in California, out west, because nobody's trying to winter in Naperville if they can help it. No disrespect to Naperville, but I feel like if there's a time, it'll be this summer where she's with her wife, she's with her daughters, and they're just kind of walking, and she's just like, it'll be time to go practice, it'll be time to go lift, it'll be time to go do something, and then she's gonna be like, I just want to keep hanging out, and that's when that's when she's gonna know. I don't know if it's going to happen. But I'm saying if it does, it would be this winter sometime in like December or even January, where it's just like, this time. And I don't know, honestly, if the fans would let her not have a farewell tour, because of, two different factors. We saw all these retirements this past season of players from the early 2000s who came in: Sue, Diana, Kia Vaughn, Sylvia Fowles. And for Candace to go out in the offseason, she said in her exit interviews she doesn't want to cheat the game, and I respect that. If she feels like she had an underwhelming series against Connecticut, and it just wasn't like she didn't have the get up and go that she used to have or wanted to have, I get that. But the way that fans had to basically clamor and demand for the WNBA to recognize that Sylvia Fowles' career was ending, if Candace just goes out on the sneak tip, like, fans would be so upset. Like, they want to rain these gifts on her at every single stop. And I get if she's not the person who wants that, but man, fans would feel cheated if she left in the offseason with just like, you know what, I made the decision to retire. And they were like, Candace, we didn't get to say goodbye. So especially in LA, all these other places that absolutely love her. Not Connecticut necessarily, but these other places. It's true, man. It's true. It would be a shame if Candace did go out in the offseason. But I'm kind of with Steph. I said 40-60. I think it's 40% she comes back, and it might go up depending on what we see.
I think those percentages are good. And she's not the average player, right? She's not the player that played 3 years and maybe the announcers give her a quick shout out that, she's retiring. Oh, and everybody claps. Like, she is Candace bleep, 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 bleep Parker. She absolutely deserves a send off. And, I don't know Candace, her day-to-day life, but I imagine that she'd have some sort of regret if she didn't get that farewell. I mean, if you saw any of Sue Bird or Sylvia Fowles' farewell tours, the people that in the stands that cried, the people in the stands that had all the signs, and there were fans that have watched them for 20 years, ever since they were little kids, and then to have their daughters or sons to be with their signs and their jerseys, like, it was so emotional, and that just really meant a lot. And then to see like Sylvia and Sue in their final interviews with Holly Rowe, like just crying, like taking it all in. Like Candace deserves that. And maybe she doesn't want that attention, but I don't know. I think maybe we should give her a surprise farewell tour. Like she just, I think she would regret it if she went home without one.
I would like to agree with you guys because they're all great points, but when I think about The Last Dance and how everyone knew that this was The Last Dance, and even Jordan was like, I'm okay with going away again regardless, because at the end of the day, he just knew it was time, at least with that specific team with the Bulls. I think as much as I want Candace to come back and would love the farewell tour and all the love at every game and things of that sort, I think she knows when it's time. And in that exit interview, she said she didn't necessarily say it was the last time, like Chris said. She doesn't want to the game. She doesn't want to cheat the game. I respect that. But sitting in that press conference room and looking at her speak about the last go around and people asking her questions about, is this the last? Or if it is the last, what would you say? She talked a lot about what it meant to play at home and what it meant to represent the home to her families and friends that they grew up watching her play. And for the kids that grew up, and with all that taking place, let's just say that for me personally, it did feel like, even though she didn't make a decision, she thought about it for a little bit. It felt like she thought about it for a little while, as closer to especially as the playoffs began to wind down. And I think a part of me is like, she doesn't want to leave the game just yet because she had such a bad last game where she only averaged like 9 points and I think 6 rebounds. Like, she didn't have a great game. So I can't see her wanting to end her career on a bad note like that. However, I think she also is like, I did what I came home to do. I won my championships with the Lakers. With the Sparks. I won my championship coming back home to the Sky. If I go out on this note, that's okay. I'm well into my next phase of my career with the broadcasting, the commercials and endorsements. I'm cool. So I can see it playing both ways. And I do think, unfortunately, for the Sky and for fans out there, this is The Last Dance. And that's why I wrote my piece on The Last Dance, the Sky's Last Dance, but you can check also on WARR Media's website and Substack. So because of that, with the rumor still being out there that she might be leaving, the Sky in general might have to transition. When you talk about not just Candace Parker leaving, you also have question marks with Allie Quigley and her retirement rumors, and rumors of Vandersloot possibly leaving the Sky to go to another team. Let me ask you this, Chris. What's the direction that the Sky should take, bearing that Candace Parker does retire and Allie Quigley does retire? What's the direction that the Sky should go to rebound from this unfortunate, in a lot of ways, disappointing season?
That's tough. And there's a lot more surrounding that question than just the salary cap. The Sky have a lot of contracts coming up, as you mentioned. Candace's contract is up. Courtney and Allie's contracts are up. Emma's contract is up this year. She only signed a 1-year deal. And so it's hard to say, especially with prioritization being a factor this coming season too. That clause in the collective bargaining agreement that stipulates anybody who doesn't come over before a certain time, their contracts will be suspended for the season or they won't be allowed to play in the WNBA. So a lot of players who make bread overseas, Rebecca Gardner, the fan favorite being one of them, are going to have to make decisions. Emma Mieseman said that her home is in Belgium, and it's hard for her to come over here for a length of time and then go back. And she's already I think she left that day after they did the exit interviews to go to start training with their team for this World Cup that's going on right now. Actually, that game is going to be played If it's not, I think in about an hour it starts, the USA versus Belgium. And so not only do the Sky have to decide who they want to keep, the players have to decide, are they going to be able to stick it out? Are they going to be able to play? And that's a tough question for everybody to answer. Khalil Copper's under contract, and you have Azrae Stevens' contract up as well. I think those are the players that you essentially build around if Candace doesn't come back. If Candace does come back, you still have Ka maintaining her role. And you've seen what Azrae Stevens can do. She was a great Sixth Woman of the Year candidate, even though she didn't win. And I think her game is continuing to grow, which is fantastic after she had an injury-shortened first go-around in Dallas. Outside of that, you have to figure out whether the next season, based on what I mentioned, is that going to be we are going to push our chips in again, we feel like we can compete for a championship, or are you kind of retooling, using this as a retooling year, and going in a slightly different direction? It's really hard to say exactly where you want to go, because not only do you have salary cap considerations to think about, you have that prioritization to think about, and you have a number of players who are nearing the tail end of their careers, and you don't want your franchise to hinge on those decisions necessarily, even with all those players have done for you. Those three players, Allie, Courtney, Candace, they don't necessarily owe the franchise. They didn't owe the franchise anything at the outset. They don't owe the franchise. They don't owe the city. They don't owe the fans anything more than they've already given. They gave this team a championship. The Chicago Sky didn't make the playoffs for the first, I think, 6 years of their existence. And then 9 years after that, they won a WNBA championship. And Courtney Vandersloot and Allie Quigley were on both of those finals teams that they had. So they don't owe the franchise anything more than they have already given. It's beholden to the franchise to make the decision. Are we gonna go with Ka and Z and move to this youth movement, Dana and Ruthie in higher rotation as well? Or do we try to pull Candace and Courtney back and see what we can get out of the next season?
Yeah, that's tough, man. It's real tough. I think they should go the Kai direction. KFC needs to just take. KFC needs to come at it, baby. She need to come through with it. I think that's the direction they need to take. But I think adding someone or being able to bring back someone, at least Candace Parker, to come back, actually elevates Kai's game to a point where she can be the Kai that we know. And that's going to be a vital component to this team that's going to be lost if Candace does not come back. So with this taking place, Steph, going to you, say that, yes, they decided to retool, the major component players are gone, and they just say, okay, we're going to build around Kai. What is the number one component of her game that you have seen that you think she needs to really work on to take on this bigger role for the team next season?
Just becoming louder. I know you mentioned she plays better with Candace, but your mentor is obviously going to retire. Your mentors are not going to be by your side all the time. And something when I watch games, when I watch clips, Candace is louder than James Wade. Like, you would think that she's the coach on the court and on the bench. She's like talking about plays. She's getting everybody hyped. Everybody's listening to Candace. They're barely listening to James. I don't even mean that in a mean way. Like, that's how much of an impact Candace has. That's how much of a basketball IQ has. Don't forget that Candace was once under Lisa Leslie's wing when she first joined the team. So this is exactly how I kind of see it, is that Ka is under Parker's wing. Parker was under Leslie's wing. Eventually, people retire, people get traded, things like that happen. So it's time for Ka in this next year or so. If Candace does leave, it's time for her to be the loudest person she can be on the team, to be that voice, to be that leader, to not only share what Candace has shown her, but Ka's really grown to and has become one of the top players in the league. So she really needs to just show her own voice, not what other people have told her in the past and have taught her in the past. Like, she really needs to teach these young players the things that she's learned on her own as well. And I think that she will be the star player when everybody does leave. You know, Quigley and Vandersloot, they're sort of question marks as well, you know, that they're getting older. I think they're in their late 30s, so they might have a couple years left. I don't really see them playing in the next 5 years, especially on the Sky. So it's really up to, as you mentioned, the team to build around Ka. And I'd actually like to see more playing time from Dana Evans as well.
Yes.
I think Dana's absolutely a fantastic player. She's actually, I'm from Northwest Indiana. Dana's also from Northwest Indiana. So 219 Region Rat represent. I have to give that shout out. Dana's awesome. I really enjoyed watching her play when she doesn't always get the time, but when she does, she's really good. And Rebecca Gardner, I mean, James Wade picked her up when he was watching, you know, games in France. You know, he lives in France. His home is in France. So somebody, I think it was actually his wife that recommended he watch her last season or a couple seasons ago overseas, and he liked what he saw and he signed her. And, you know, she was one of the members of the winning team. So, you know, maybe it's time to scout some more players overseas. There's a lot of talent. Don't forget that there's a lot of talent you can draft as well. I'm excited to see Caitlin Clark from University of Iowa. You know, I think she'll be eligible in the next 2 years. So, you know, hopefully she can make a Midwest return. That would be really, really cool. And I'm excited for the WNBA, not only the Sky, just the entire league. It's slowly but surely growing. And I think that this year, especially, you know, I keep bringing up that game 3 of the semifinals. I think it was one of the most watched. And, you know, Seattle Stadium, Las Vegas Stadium, you know, they were continuously sold out during the playoffs, and you just love to see it. I don't really like the naysayers that are saying that, you know, WNBA doesn't matter, it's not growing, it's a waste. It's not. It's so much fun, and I'm so looking forward to see, again, not what the Sky can do, but the rest of the league can do in the years to come.
I can't say more than that, honestly. I think my guy Kristen Brazel, 808s and Snack Breaks, put it best. Is like, the people who watch, and the people who don't are going to probably comment, but they're not watching, so they don't really matter. Those stadiums were full. A friend of mine here went to the Connecticut Las Vegas game 2, and she said it was a madhouse at Mandalay Bay. And I'm really hoping that other arenas follow suit. Not everybody can do what the Aces can do because they have that Mark Davis money. They have that wealth fund to delve into. But as time goes on, as Steph is saying, I think there's some things that people are forcing through in terms of change, in terms of marketing, in terms of visibility for the league, that really couldn't have come about without loud voices, without the players, without the people who are fans of the league putting those things out there. But as time goes on, the entities who own these teams are really going to see that they have to put their money up where their mouth is. We've seen the discussion around charter flights, things that were put in the CBA about maternity leave, about not doubling up in hotel rooms, all sorts of things that were necessary for the promulgation of a professional league. Those things are going to start coming. And that all comes with money. That all comes with increased profile, but specifically ownership. That's going to really make a difference.
100%. I agree with you guys. You know, I don't blame you, Steph, for doing the shout out, because Chris knows I give my shout out to Candace Parker all the time. 630, baby. That's what we do. That's what we do. 630, baby. We win. So I understand, completely understand. But I'm also in agreement with you guys as well as far as the growing of the league and where this league is technically going. I think it's just like in the NBA, it's always great when the major sports media market teams are winning. And with the Sky being able to win their championship and be really relevant from a playoff perspective, it's a beautiful thing to see. So we'll see how the Chicago Sky do and what they want to do or plan to do in this offseason, as they have some pretty tough decisions to make. And some of the players as well got some tough decisions to make as well. So we'll see how that goes. But Chris, you mentioned ownership and how these owners are going to have to take things to the next level for this league as time goes on. That's a very true statement because, there's a slot that is open right now. I don't know if you hear about what's going on in Phoenix, with this Robert Sarver situation. It's a little messed up. We don't approve of that here. Just putting that out there. But the Mercury are available. So I don't know about you. I'll throw my bid in for about a couple hundred. I'll throw my bid in. You can give me the 0.0000001% of the minority stake. I'll take it. I just want my name on the paper. I'm good. I'll take that. But that spot is available. So if you want to throw your bid in, Chris, we know you're the money man around here. You live in the celebrity or status. We'd love to have you join this ownership group. For our own bid for the Phoenix Mercury, I'm cool with that, if you really want to.
I only wish that we lived in a time where what the Green Bay Packers have was still allowed by these leagues. So there weren't just, tech billionaires and old money white dudes and this and that and the other in charge of these franchises. The one thing I will say about Mark Davis that I really do enjoy, because he rides hard for the Aces. It was documented that he skipped out on the Raiders game to go watch that game, which he should have done. This was a championship series. But he really does ride hard for the Aces. He was at the Commissioner's Cup game, sitting courtside. There was a review on a call that went their way, and I heard him say, it's like, that's right. Yes. And he was in it. And the best thing that he did after they won Game 4 was that Holly Rowe asked him something about mentioning him not being at the Raiders game and then what he did for the franchise. And he said, this is for the city of Las Vegas, and pretty much got the fuck out of the way, which is what every single owner should do. They didn't necessarily win the game. They didn't win the games. They put the money up, but they didn't win the games. And I need to see owners who are willing to do that. Barring that, if we can somehow change the laws, I would love for everybody to get $20, $30 together and put up $100. We'll get this ownership group going. And it'll be a democratic, we will all be in the board of directors like a publicly traded business. Let's get it. Let's do that.
I love it, man. I love it. But since we talk about the WNBA and the fact that this ownership opportunity is now available, we obviously have seen other NBA players be vocal about how if they could put their own stake in the WNBA, they would. LeBron James and stars like down the line. But I had this thought as I was reading up more on this situation. And, there are the rumors are true about, Candace Parker potentially leaving off scene. She does have a second career, per se, going on with, with broadcasting and endorsements and things of that sort. So she makes some pretty decent money, pretty good money. What if she actually has a stake in one of these ownership teams and, becomes part of in one of these ownership groups to where she could, be one of the owners of the Mercury, just putting something out there as an idea. Because when you talk about the gap between the WNBA and NBA, especially from a support perspective, and financially, why Candace Parker is the ideal person to just slide in there and say, hey, this is a representative of someone that knows how to get to work with the best of the best in NBA, but she is one of the faces, legendary faces of the WNBA, and she has been vocal and adamant about creating the change she wants to see. As one of those main leaders, why not? I mean, slide her in. I asked Dana about this, and she told me I would love for that to happen and hope that happens because if anyone could do it and represent the WNBA in the way that it needs to be represented while correlating with the NBA because of the respect that they get from NBA players, Candace would be the perfect person to do it. So, Steph, does your Northwest Indiana shout-out friend have a point in getting Candace Parker to join ownership group, especially not just for the WNBA but the men NBA as well. Is that a good idea?
Oh, that's a great idea, especially Candace, just being, again, the basketball mind on and off the court, the business woman that she is. Oh my gosh, completely intelligent. I want to see her on a Shark Tank episode. I don't know why they have A-Rod all the time. Like, they should have Candace Parker. Come on. You hear that, Shark Tank? I know you're watching. But yeah, Candace would be excellent on Shark Tank. Back to your point, yes, I think she'd be a great owner. However, I don't know if she'd ever really be able to put the game down, because if something's not going right, I think she's going to put a jersey on, get back on the court, and show them how it's done. Especially that round one of playoffs, they weren't doing too well there. So I think Candace would be like, put me in, I'm going in. I all jokes aside, I think she would be an incredible owner, not just like a minority owner or just have like 0.1%. Like, I think she would be a great full-time or majority owner. Just even the way that she speaks to the media and to the people and to staff and to everybody, she's a leader. We discussed this. She's a leader. She's a voice. She's a voice of the WNBA. Honestly, let's have her be commissioner. Why not? Kathy's okay. No knocks on Kathy, but I think Candace would be one hell of a commissioner. And I think we would see the game grow way quicker in Candace's hands. I think she's got more ideas. I actually think a lot of players, especially former players, listen to Sue Bird interviews, Diana Taurasi, they always have what the WNBA should do and how the NBA can help. Like, they have all these ideas, and I feel like nobody's listening to them, and that bothers me. And also, side note, whoever designed the Commissioner's Cup jersey shirts, the shirts that the players wore after the game, I was really upset with those. It really looked like they made them out of Microsoft Word. I am just so angry with those. I honestly could have done better, and I would like to submit designs. So if anybody has that email or that contact, I will gladly submit designs. I just think that the game is sometimes taken. It's just not really taken seriously, and I think when Kelsey won that little trophy, it's moments like that. It's the Commissioner's Cup jersey, or sure, I keep saying jersey. Even the WNBA trophy itself is pretty. Where's my camera? There it is. Pretty tiny as well. But I think that, come on, there's got to be some money in the WNBA. Let's get better designs. Let's get more awareness. Let's get fans that get excited about buying merch. I do think that the Aces have the coolest jerseys. The Aces and the Storm. I really like the Black Storm. I think it's their home jersey. Those are the coolest jerseys. But there are some jerseys that I'm like, did a kid design this? I don't know. Like, I just think that I just keep thinking if there was NBA Commissioner's Cup, and there was no way that LeBron would have wore that clip art shirt. So come on, we got to do better for the WNBA here. I will gladly submit designs for free. Like, that's how much I want more awareness. I just want the WNBA to do better. That's all.
I agree. I'm glad you brought that up, Steph, because I hope nobody forgot that was such a wild moment. And sorry, I was getting ahead of myself. That was such a wild moment to see Kelsey Plum hold up that AYSO participation trophy after the end of what is supposed to be the marquee midseason event of the league. It was so bad. And I'm glad you brought up the shirts, because I didn't actually see the shirts.
Oh, please check them out.
I will look that up. And then there was all the hubbub about All-Star Weekend and how badly that went off too, with the events being over at McCormick Place rather than the stadium, and some behind-the-scenes stuff with credentials and how those were given out. As good as the basketball was this year, and it was good. We got some of Elena Delle Donne back in Washington. The Dallas Wings made the playoffs, which I said at the beginning of the season, and hardly anybody agreed with. Shout out to me. I was right. I'm going to big myself up. we got some great basketball this year, but administratively, the league fell down on a lot. And prioritization was something that the players agreed to. So we can't just blame that on the league. Sabria Whitaker's been very outspoken about that. The CBA came up, the players agreed to what they agreed to, and prioritization was given a backseat until now when it kicks in. So the league they still have kind of the upper hand in this. It's hard. I think it'll be a while before we see a former player become commissioner or even like, say, the executive vice president in terms of player relations or something like that. Whatever that, the post is always held in the MNBA when it comes to discipline, and usually get a former player in that role. But the league has a long way to go with that. So I think that's going to be very interesting. Coming up, not this offseason maybe, but the next one, because the players, the WNBPA, the Players Association, it's going to be a test of how strong their bond is as a union, as a true union. And in basketball, that means a lot. Basketball, professional basketball in the United States has always had a very strong culture in terms of union, partially because they came about much later than the other sports, and partially because it is a heavier black and brown league. So I think player rights and player rights and abilities, what they're able to do is very important. But as people said, I think Kayla Davis was talking on a Twitter space, it's hard for players to say we're going to give up this money overseas, or if some people don't come back, Breonna Stewart doesn't come back, it's hard for other players to say, okay, I'm not going to take this job if they're offering it. So you're not going to necessarily have this unbroken line of support for players who are going to say, well, if they're not playing, we're not playing too. Some people are going to want to get that job, get that profile, get that money, get that spot in the starting rotation in the WNBA. So there's going to be a tipping point of some sort soon in terms of labor relations coming up for the league and the players. Watch out for that.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And I'm glad you brought up the point about players having to make that tough choice of boycotting per se, and boycotting when it comes to the money. Because when you talk about what's currently going on in Russia still, I mean, you see the bottom of the screen, bottom of the cast, bring Runnin home. She should be home by now. And we support BG, just like we support the WNBA. So hit up wearebg.org and show your support in any effort to help bring Brittany Griner home. But because of what's going on in Russia, because she went overseas to make that money before trying to come back for the WNBA season, there's reports going around saying that WNBA players are actually boycotting and playing over there. So when you talk about, Chris, that moment in time where boycott is going to become an issue because they're already dealing with the back and forth of pretty much struggling just to make ends meet by going overseas. It's going to be very important for the league to grow now because that way they don't have to deal with this type of stuff anymore. They can just stay in the U.S. and make a good, honest living for themselves, and that's higher than what they currently are experiencing now. And so they can automatically boycott. They ain't got to go overseas. But with that taking place right now, talk about the importance. I'll go to you on this, Steph. The importance of WNBA players putting their foot down and saying, as much as we need this bread, as much as I want to go overseas and make this money, with Russia, by the way, being one of the top leagues that pay a lot of money for the NBA players to play. For them to say no, that's a statement to not just the WNBA from a financial perspective, from them cutting their ties from per se of extra money, but really showing our support for their fellow colleague per se and Brittany Griner, and trying to send the message of the wrongdoing that's being taken place in Russia. Talk about the importance of that and what that really means for the NBA.
Yeah, I mean, they really have to advocate for themselves. It's really difficult to do, and I'm really sad that they even have to go overseas to play. It's really dangerous. Like, even if you're traveling, just the average person traveling, it can be dangerous. So I can't imagine, going overseas, just like you said, to actually make money. They're not doing it really to make extra money. Like they're really doing it to, provide for their lifestyle and for their family. And, I'm sure maybe some of their spouses maybe don't work or don't have as high profile, as a job as professional athletes. So, they're going to make money and they're also going to work on their skills. So I really think that, the issue here with Brittany Griner, it's so sad. I mean, she is very much wrongfully detained. I know there's a lot of people that disagree and say that she belongs there. And I disagree with that. But, everybody brings up that point of, well, you would never see LeBron or you would never see Steph Curry overseas. Well, you wouldn't see them overseas because they're making so much money that, they don't even know what to do with it. They'll go to their graves with millions and millions upon millions still in their pockets. So, but I feel like, roles reversed if for some reason, let's say they were in the Olympics or, whatever this scenario might be, like if they were overseas for, again, the Olympics or something else, and they were wrongfully detained, I feel like the NBA would get bigger stars home, and fans, I feel like, would petition and probably be lined outside of the White House. And I feel like, with the bigger stars, it would be there would be more of an effort to bring them home. Whereas, like, again, with women's basketball, I feel like it's sort of overlooked, and there's sexism and racism and homophobia that plays in with BG. So it really breaks my heart. So again, just for players to really speak up, I'm not really sure what the next step is, but I think that definitely the president has to do a better job in bringing BG home.
Well, Steph, obviously, we thank you so much for taking your time out of your busy schedule to come talk to us and run with us. 3-man weaving this thing, every transition to get our layup with the fillet, the jelly, every time. We won the game, baby. And I thank you so much for joining us to run through 3-man weave this thing with us. So, that being said, man, we're going to continue to transition to hold on, stay on real quick, Steph. I'm going to transition because, like I said, we do have a celebrity in the house. We do have a celebrity in the house, Chris. You definitely was on TV recently. You was you were showing off your knowledge and wisdom of all the topics on the show. You was on prime time. You weren't even in Chicago. You weren't even in Chicago. You had to go 2 hours west.
Dude, hey, Josh, you got to fly to Los Angeles, man. I wish that was a 2-hour flight.
Yeah.
All right, I won't take that. I won't take it away from you. Go on ahead, man.
Let's put it this way. I had to wake up 2 hours. If you was recording at the time you was recording, then yeah, I would have to wake up 2 hours prior to the actual recording just to make sure I even catch you live, which shows how much dedication and how much of a celebrity I really view you as. That I'm willing to take my time and take 2 hours extra to watch you do your thing. And so does Kyle, which is the boss, the founder, the real one that makes this possible. He has come on the show with us. Big dog, what's happening, man?
You scared him.
Yeah, too much. The intro was too much. So Steph, if you get back on the show, you will note that Josh has that wrestling manager energy, and so he's gonna super hype you up when you come through. And sometimes, I guess Kyle wasn't quite ready for that. He's a natural. He's more of a fan favorite, and they don't necessarily need wrestling managers. So I think that's what happened.
Well, you know how this goes, Chris. I gotta do what I gotta do to represent my people. And when I think you a celebrity, I'm gonna give you the emphasis and let the world know that you are a celebrity. So,
all right. I should have brought the hat out. We got a hat and a tote bag, but I was on Jeopardy when filmed in August, and the episode aired this afternoon in Chicago. Late around now, or an hour earlier, an hour ahead of now, in other time zones, and it was cool. I will say that very much. It was something I wanted to do for a long time. Been a trivia person for a long time. Honestly, been what would you say, a reformed gifted child. There's a lot of that goes around on the internet now. But that was one of my things that I was like, I want to figure out a way to quantify how much I really know. And trivia was always the way to do it. And I looked at Jeopardy, it was like, that was the end all be all. That was the thing. That was the big thing that you could possibly do in terms of knowing stuff. And so when I heard about an academic bowl, scholastic bowl, oh my gosh, what is the Heritage Bowl? I wanted to do Heritage Bowl back in high school for Chicago area folks. Y'all know what the Heritage Bowl is. But it was all getting to Jeopardy, and it was cool to do the show. I didn't end up having the result that I wanted.
That's a spoiler. Whoa.
Maybe I wanted to get out of Los Angeles. You never know. Maybe that was what I wanted.
Hey, depending on how that works, I ain't leaving LA. I love LA too much. I ain't leaving LA, man. No, so you different, Chris. You different.
It was definitely dope. Thank you. I will say this: if any of you get on Jeopardy, if anybody on the show if anybody on the show gets on Jeopardy, if anybody out there is watching, wants to get on Jeopardy, do not move apartments and then have a overnight layover in Las Vegas the 2 days before you film. Because I was running on that bad boy in absolute fumes. I was so tired in there. And you really want a full night's sleep. So make sure you don't schedule any big life events around your filming date. I will definitely say that.
So who's the host now? Is it Ken Jennings?
It was Ken for that one. I think Mayim Bialik has some times too. I think they split. I can't remember if there's a third host because they were doing that rotating celebrities for a while. But Ken and Mayim are the hosts as far as I know right now. I was honestly hoping for Mayim just because I watched Blossom when I was a kid, and I was going to try not to make a Blossom joke, but then try to, I really wanted to say something. But Ken is a great host too. He's very friendly. I was on another game show, and he was on that, The Chase, and I think something that came up sparked his memory. It was in my they ask you for interview topics, like what do you want to talk about? What do you want the host to talk about? And he's like, you were on The Chase with Elliot. Yeah, Elliot was a great player. Because my guy Elliot Yates from The Chase won Jeopardy, won Wheel of Fortune. Elliot's fucking great. So all of this to say, Jeopardy was fantastic. I'm sorry I didn't bring the little hat that we got, but I hope that some of y'all out there, you two, and anybody who's watching us gets to achieve whatever dreams they want, because this is a dream of mine for years and years and years, and I got to achieve it.
That's awesome, man.
So happy.
Can I get an autograph next time I see you, please?
Yeah.
Drew, don't ask me for an autograph, bro. Don't do that. You're gonna have people wondering who I am, and it's like, what is this? It's like, what is this? Who is this guy? What is the point? Why is everybody so up about this? You're gonna have people wondering, was it like, what? Does he play ball? And I'm like, nah, I don't.
No, he does something much better than that. Many things much better. I could lay out the foundation of what makes Chris Pinner, man.
For real, over here setting crazy standards. We may be on TV,
Man.
but I didn't get on to LA to do a TV show. I'm just saying, I'm jealous. I'm jealous with that. No, for real though, man, Chris, I really you did your thing, man. And I didn't get a chance to fully see it, but I did record it. I'm gonna watch the recording of it.
Yeah, Josh, my man Josh here got a VCR. I'm proud of you, bro. I really am.
Hey man, you gotta take advantage of the how Flow comes through from Progressive with the bundle packages. Gotta take advantage of your bundle packages sometimes. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So yeah, most definitely did that. Hopefully, but it looks like hopefully Kyle issues is taken care of. Obviously, we got another celebrity on the show. We have the maestro himself. Because he be writing with the pen, and he's just nasty with it. That's Drew. Drew Stevens, man. Glad the whole crew is back on the show. Most love it. Love everything going on. Obviously, Steph, thank you so much for the WNBA talk. Really appreciate it. And obviously, we're going to keep in touch. We look forward to having you back on the show. And where can everybody find you on your social media?
Yeah, please find me. I'm mostly on Twitter. It's Steph Stremp, STEPH STREMP 17. It's my favorite number of all time. You'll just find me making lame jokes on Twitter. Lately, been making a lot of WNBA references. So if you like things of that nature, go ahead and follow me there.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And it looks like Kyle dropped off. So looks like he's handling his connection issues real quick. But that being said, Drew.
Yes, sir.
My guy, we got some NBA talk to follow up on, because clearly it's been a heck of a day. And within this heck of a day, it involves the one and only Robert Sarver. We briefly talked about it earlier on the show from a WNBA perspective, but this guy now he owned both. He was a big timer. He's a big timer. He had big money, and he was the owner of Mercury and the Phoenix Suns. But now that both he's about to get both. So for sale. We talked about from the Mercury side of things, but at the same time, it is also the Phoenix Suns side of things. So, Drew, what does this mean overall for the NBA? And who would you like to come in and steal some of that ownership? Because Chris and I already put our bids in for the Mercury. I'll put my bid in for the Suns too, for the Suns as well. So, who do you think should be able to take that ownership seat?
Well, in terms of the first question, I think it's they kind of Sarver almost kind of helped the NBA get over what happened last week and how they kind of went on the more of the lenient side in terms of punishment by agreeing to sell both teams that he owns. So in that regard, it's a good look. Like I said, because it kind of saves the day. But I was a little thrown off by some of the language he used in the statement. Basically to the effect that the words that he said most recently have overshadowed the 2 decades worth of organization building that he says that he led with the Phoenix area, and talking about how we're in a non-forgiving society. Like, I mean, that's how thin that margin is when you decide to play, the misogynist or the racist. Like, it can undo everything that you built. I mean, that's plain and simple. It's as easy as that. So, I mean, for him to say those things in that statement kind of took me aback. But it also, reading some of the comments that staffers said who were listed in that first report that came out, somebody alluded to the fact that they hope to see that more men who are involved in this or who didn't say anything or step up, they would like to see them rooted out as well. So I think there's more fallout to come. Obviously, this is the biggest kind of domino that will fall. So we just kind of have to see where that goes. But I'm glad that a new owner will be in place, if for nothing else, just to have a better work environment. Get away from this nonsense that was going on in that organization, as well as possibly an owner who was willing to put more money into a championship winning team on both sides of the coin. in terms of your last question, I need to know who you guys threw out in terms of who you would like to see take over the mantle for the Mercury and the Suns. I need some rope.
Honestly, man.
It was us.
Oh yeah, that was it. That's all I really want. I don't.
Are we in?
I do not want some hedge fund billionaire. I don't want some tech billionaire. I don't want any billionaire taking over another team, because a friend of mine said once, and this was on the intro for my podcast. It was such a good quote. You cannot make a great business in this country without sacrificing ethics. And no matter what, somebody who has bags of money, who has Scrooge McDuck money, has done something shady to get it and keep it. And, honestly, that was the reason why I wasn't a fan of JB when he first came in, because I was like, this is just another billionaire who wants to go into public office. Granted, he's done it really, 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 really well and put people around him. Shout out Juliana Stratton. Shout out putting up people around him who can get the job done. That's why Darren Bailey and them are so shit scared, and you got this wealth manager from Wheaton talking about, he's done such a bad job. It's like, yeah, because nigga, you are not accumulating bread. I'm sorry, this is a sports show.
It's all good, man. Hey, they merge sometimes, bro. So it's okay.
Sports and politics are right here for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't put a name out there, Drew, because I don't want any of those cats. The only person that, Serena Williams. That's what I'm going to go with. I would say Serena, and Lexus can be like a 5% owner. That's it. So Serena Williams. That's my pick.
Okay. What about you, Josh? Who'd you have in mind?
I had Candace Parker involved in this. I would like Candace Parker to be involved, and she has support of people and teammates to do so. Dana Evans told me that Candace Parker would be great for that, and she would hope that she would do that if the opportunity was presented to herself, because of representation, not just from the WNBA perspective, but how respected she is with other NBA players and executives throughout the league as well. I think it'd be a good match, a good mesh of coming together business-wise to make something like that possible. So for me, I would Candace Parker in here, especially since it's been dealing with Renee Montgomery, who is now one of the part owners of the Atlanta Dream. So I think it's possible for her to do that, and I think that will maybe one day down the line actually happen. But at the same time, I'm kind of like Chris. I don't really want. I can really care less about anyone else who says it. It's been reported that potentially one of those people that may be involved is obviously Jeff Bezos, because he pretty much bought everything in this world. So, I mean, if he gets it, especially when you talk about how he's doing with Amazon Thursday Night Football, I would not be surprised if he transitions to the NBA realm and takes over some of that too. I would not be surprised if that takes place. So I can see that happening. But I mean, Drew, let's be very serious. At the end of the day, I just need my name to be on the sheet. That's all. I just need my small minority stake, and I'm good to go. I mean, we can do it that way until I get more bread to come down the line. Then I'll ask for more of a bigger stake. But then, let me get the sign in. Let me sign me in, Lopez. Just catch me up on the sheet, and we'll be good to go.
So yeah, no doubt.
That being said, though, obviously we got our founder back. It seems like the man has risen from technical issues.
He said risen.
Kyle, you good?
Like a man came back from the dead. It's trying to come in, Kyle. It's really, really quiet. Xfinity done claimed another life, man. That's terrible.
You know what's crazy? I got Xfinity. You want to talk about bundle? I got Xfinity. So we're running perfectly fine over here. They made sure I had internet and that I could support your show, bro. See, look at that. See how it all comes together.
Can I say one last thing because I gotta jump out of here?
Yeah.
I know we talked earlier about the Aces Parade, but it's so dope seeing Asia Wilson really come into her own as one of, if not the premier face of the WNBA going forward, and one of the faces of basketball going forward. You know, because we tend to get tunnel vision about what basketball is because it's this North American sport, and because so many great players have come from the U.S. or Canada. But Asia Wilson, who is in South Carolina as South Carolina gets, boy, like you can see the Black American influence in every single thing she does. She is the epitome of a Black American woman. And she's also a fantastic basketball player that does it on both ends of the floor. But that press conference, that post-game press conference, that parade, everything. Not only are we moving to a different era, firmly moving to a different era of the WNBA, we are moving to an era where fans are going to make sure and players are going to make sure that the league has no choice but to center these Black women, but to center these counterculture women, but to center these queer women, queer people at the forefront of the league. And my friend Maya Goldberg Safir wrote a really fantastic article or column for The Guardian about how important it is that Brittany Griner, what made her such a bargaining chip for Russia is because when she was in Baylor, she straight up came out like right at the draft night. She's like, yo, I'm gay. I'm gay, bro. Like a lot of people who had to look a certain way on draft night, she was like, nah, I'm not doing that. She came through with the Joakim Noah type suit and all that. She was out there balling from day one. And now she was kind of the cutting edge of that, so to speak, that really was just legitimately out there in the W. And now you got players like Asia, like Courtney Williams, who we saw so much of in the semis and the finals with her and her dad, Don. So many players in the league now, man, are just going to it won't have to be like it was with Cheryl Swoops. Took so long to come before they felt comfortable coming out. Same with Candace Parker. It's going to be that. And I'm so excited to see that. I'm so excited to see that, bro.
That's well said, man. It's a different type of player empowerment. I mean, it's bigger than that. It's human empowerment. It's being able to be your authentic self and not feel like you got to put on airs for anybody or anything or any sponsorship or this, that, or the third. Like, you know, you are who you are. You do what you do. You know, if you like it, cool. If not, you know, you can kick rocks if you want. You know, but this is what it is. So that's very well said, Chris.
I concur with all the sentiments said here on this show today, as well as the fact that, you know, you talking about Asia repping everything that makes her. I don't normally do this, but I have to do it because it is significant. We got to give a shout out to AKA sororities.
Oh,
because, you know, she going to ski weed her way I'm always right. She ski weed her way all through the hallway. I mean, AKAs have been doing their thing as of lately. We talk about inspired. I gotta give them a shout out. Shout out to the AKAs. My mom's an AKA, so I know what it means to hear and be AKA sororities all around your home and ski weeds all around your home. I get it. So this is a pretty big deal, you know, for the AKAs, especially since you know, you already got Kamala in the White House, so you know they going nuts. Out of all that. And Asia Wilson is one of those athletes. You know, there's other athletes that are part of other fraternities and sororities, but she is for sure one of those athletes that is vocal about the sorority and organization that she's a part of. So definitely got to give her props for that. And, you know, obviously wish her the best moving forward. Chris, my guy, I appreciate you coming on the show, man. You know, continue your celebrialness. We will follow your footsteps.
I'm gonna put that on the shirt.
Yo,
let me know how to spell that word, and I will put it on the shirt.
If you do, I'm gonna ask for my cut. You know, I gotta get my cut. I
record
on this show. Publication right here, evidence.
Josh, First and foremost, this man is an entrepreneur. It's like, that man is a whole brand unto himself. And so, Josh, you rest assured that you will get your bread on that.
Good, because I need this money to put in my stake for the Mercury and Sun. Thank you, man. Appreciate you, bro. Keep doing the thing and follow what he's doing with James Tay and Skyhook podcast. For sure.
Congrats again, man.
Looks like we got the founder, Kyle, that's back here. Kyle, you good, man? Looks like we still got some technical difficulties here and there with Kyle, man. But in the meantime, Drew, we'll continue our conversation. We started off with the Sun and the Mercury. I think it was unfortunate that that it literally got to this point. And the reason why I say unfortunate is because it should have been done in the first place. You talked about how the NBA pretty much gave Sarver a slap on the wrist when it came to the original punishment that he was taken or given prior to leading up to this moment. It was a bad move on the NBA's part, I think, to give him the pretty much a slap on the wrist, especially when you consider previous situations that the league has gone through. Donald Sterling being one of the biggest ones. He couldn't stand a chance. They got rid of him ASAP. And even someone like Mark Cuban, they got on him as well with some of this for some of the culture that was being taken place with the Dallas Mavericks that he wasn't worried about. And they gave him a pretty nice punishment on that as well. So I think that if the NBA, they did well, but they didn't get it right the first time. And it's one of those situations where, from a league perspective, you can't put anything like that up to chance, considering you are partnered with the WNBA, considering you are partnered with the way society is moving from not just from a humanistic perspective, but from a cultural perspective. And representation, all those factors are changing. You're in a different era now. You have to be very careful with the things you say and things you do. And for him, it was all over the place, not just from women, but the dudes too. And I'm like, yo, what's going on here, bro? Gives you some question marks, And because of that, this, to me, should have equated to a Donald Sterling, where you should have right off the bat. And honestly, I honestly think it's worse, because at least with Donald Sterling, you knew exactly what it was. It was blatant racism and discrimination off the bat. But that was pretty much the only allegation. Here, you have allegations of discrimination. You have allegations of racism. You got sexual harassment. You have all different types of accusations that were true. So that being so inclusive, that should have been something that, at the end of the day, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Sterling got the boot right away. Guess what? He should have got the boot right away too. Honestly, and I respect the NBA for working with Sarver to correct that mistake. But at the end of the day, that's a scar. That's a scar. That's going to be a scar against the league moving forward. And if cases like this continue to happen throughout the league, which unfortunately I think will continue, what's going to be the benchmark now for their process moving forward, considering you just took 2 steps forward. You took major steps moving forward with Donald Sterling to take only pretty much steps back. And you try to reestablish that line that, quite frankly, you just can't reestablish now. So I'm interested to see how the NBA moves forward with further potential cases taking place, because now you had a foundation, but that foundation has been shattered a little bit. So now you got to work overtime to build that back up.
Yeah, I think the scar has been left more so on Adam Silver than the NBA itself. He got a lot of blowback for statements that he made in the original penalties that came out. And I wonder, with Sarver agreeing to sell the team, or, I don't know how you want to put it, because I'm sure there was pressure that he was feeling or not feeling, or pressure from Silver, or things that the players were saying once things were coming out. And I just wonder now if that takes any of the heat off of Silver, like because this is happening now. Does the way that people were feeling about Silver the end of last week, does that start to kind of dissipate a little bit as we move forward, or does that still leave a mark on his legacy? And that's not to say he was in, all things being told, he wasn't in a great situation. Obviously, he worked in the interest of the owners. It wasn't quite the same. It wasn't an apples to apples with Donald Sterling's situation in terms of being able to kind of strip him of his ownership. But man, yeah, that definitely was a black eye. I just wonder if it's going to remain there for the remainder of his tenure as commissioner.
Well, looks like we got our founder back.
Fellas.
What's up, Kyle?
What's up, Kyle?
Okay, yeah. Thank you. No more
I can hear you.
intros. No more intros. All right. Yeah. Let me do a PSA right quick, man. If you want to stream consistently, don't work on a Chromebook or on this is an anti-Google because Chrome is giving me a lot of shit this year. I can't have you can't have too many windows open on Chrome or you can't really do nothing that great if you have too many windows or even tabs open. But before you not go in on Google because they might shut our whole stuff down if I go in on Google like I really will. But yeah, I was gonna send some flowers to Chris and stuff. We'll do that at the end of the show. But I'll just jump in right quick since we're on Sarver, and I think I'm a little bit I'm more inclined to side with Drew about the being more by this whole situation and everything than the league itself. I think the league, depends on the league. Some people look at the league as the players. Some people look at it as the owners. The owners didn't have to step up in any way in this situation because what didn't have everybody off the hook essentially by making this decision that he's made. If Sarver wanted to fight, if he was more of a jerk off like Sterling and was like, well, you got to take this franchise from me, we would have had a lot of heat going forward, and you would have heard more statements probably like Draymond Green saying that the owners needed to step up and make a vote and essentially excommunicate him from their old man, their group, as it were, of ownership. But they didn't have to do that. And Silver, in spite of his wishy-washiness or his inability to really really make that sort of state of and this what has to be noted in all this too is that Silver does work for the owners, so he in a way caught between a rock and a hard place. But as a leader, he didn't exemplify himself in the same way that he was able to in the Sterling situation, even though he should have known that he had the backing of the players and of the public opinion. But he didn't really take advantage of that. So like I said, like Drew said, I think he's more scarred by it than the league. The owners, they're off the hook, and the players don't have to flex their they don't have to flex in any way as a advocate group for essentially for Black Americans, which they too often have to be put in that position because of for stupid people like Robert Sarver. But luck, like I said, I think it's a fortunate situation overall that he's stepping aside. He's having enough sense to do that, and the league can move on. Essentially.
Yeah, those are all very good points. It's obviously, unfortunate that the NBA has to go through this again, but they are, and the WNBA is going through it as well. Considering that, Sarver did own not just the Suns, but the Phoenix Mercury as well. Kyle, if you want, real briefly, Who would you want to take the new ownership of the Suns and the Mercury? You can't say us, because I already vouched for us. I'm putting my stake in already as is. So,
well, I mean, if you got enough money, to run a team, maybe you should put some money in this little venture we got going here, Josh.
Well, I don't have the money yet. I'm trying to do a sign-in write-off type of deal where I can just,
okay.
I'm trying to do something like that,
This is one of them installment plans or something.
Yeah. But who would you ideally want to be as a good option to actually run not just the Phoenix Sun but the Phoenix Mercury? Or do you want separate ownerships for both, or want separate ownerships with both? One group that just runs the Sun and another group that runs the Mercury.
I mean, to have that, I think issue that a lot of the WNBA teams have had is that they've sort of hamstrung to their NBA kinfolk, and a lot of those situations where the owners own an NBA team, they sort of cheap out on the WNBA team. We see in two cases, I think, both of the last two teams that have won championships for WNBA are independent and operated outside of the NBA. There's no Jerry Reinsdorf, thank God, don't have any stake in the sky. And y'all mentioned earlier about Mark Davis. His he stands as a owner of these. He doesn't have to worry about any NBA product at all or anything out there in Vegas. So in both of those cases, you have teams that have been invested in quite well. They have good arenas. They have good active fan bases that they cater to quite well. And they've been better off for it. Like I say, they won the last two championships in large part because of that type of thing. So maybe that would be the way to go. Even though Phoenix has been a successful franchise as well throughout the years, maybe they would be better with some independent ownership as well. I think one of the things that we people don't notice about the Sky is that they are owned in part by Matthew Knowles, who is Beyonce's father. So maybe B and J need to go in and have a little bit of ownership of the. I know they could take the Mercury with the chain with pocket chains that they got. They could take the Mercury for that, and the Suns they might have to get a little more, couple more people in, because Jay didn't own much of the Nets. He owned like a little bitty piece of it. So he might need to get some other people involved with, if they want the Suns. But, definitely the Mercury would be a realistic situation for them. And the Suns, I think any sort of consortium that is diverse, probably like most, led by a person of color, any type of minority who hasn't been involved in the ownership structure in the NBA yet, or to a large degree, there have been black ownership, but not much. But anybody of color or a feet or of a woman or whatever could take over either one of those teams. I'd be happy about that.
Well, as someone, as a person of color, I greatly appreciate your support for us going in.
Yeah, I mean, Josh, if you can do it, man, I'm with you, Josh. I just don't. I ain't know you was balling like that, man.
Hey, it's not out right now, but it could be down the line. Can be down the line for sure. We're gonna speak that into existence.
You ain't see the social media clip of our man getting off the bus? I mean, clean. I'm talking about, man.
Oh yeah, a lot of people get off buses though, and they, sometimes they just tourists, So
Oh man, that's funny. But
nah, yeah. Josh was looking good. Josh was looking good though in that. I mean, he getting his sizzle reel ready so that you got to have the right profile to be an NBA owner. He can't be no bum owning an NBA team. He gonna be looking fine with his sockless with his loafers on and everything, man. That's the look for Arizona, for the desert. You got to have your sockless, your penny loafers, be sockless and pants. Yeah, have the ankles out. You got to have the ankles in Phoenix.
Oh God. Oh man, let's transition to what else is sizzling in the NBA, man. You want to talk about deserts and heat? Thing that's being hot right now is the top NBA top 100 players list that's come out. ESPN did their rankings, as well as other major news outlets such as CBS Sports, and they're very, very interesting, I should say, to say the least. According to CBS Sports, you have Giannis Antetokounmpo as the number 1 player in the league, and you have Steph Curry going to number 2. You got Kevin Durant, who I am 3. You have Jokic coming in at 4 with Doncic at 5, and the king himself, LeBron James, is only ranked number 7. Must admit, kind of appalled by this. And the only reason why is because the king himself is still averaging 30 plus a game, while averaging 8 and 7 on top of that. Yes, the team's not winning. The team is not winning. Okay, we understand that. But dude is still playing at the top of his game. In year 20 to year 20. Still, to me, by far top 3 at least best in the league. And you got him at 7? That's like questioning. That's like you trying to ask Allen Iverson about practice. That's how dare you? Like, that's just appalling. I don't get the blasphemy behind this list and this hate against LeBron James. Am I crazy, Drew? Am I crazy for this?
Yeah, I love you, Josh, but I think you're a little crazy for this, man. I understand that LeBron James has been everything to the NBA for quite some time now, but this isn't a ranking of what he's done and how good he still is. This is a ranking of where he stands among the best in the NBA, for this season that's coming up. And I would throw a question back to you. If you're going to put LeBron James higher than 7th, better than 7th, who are you replacing him with? Who are you flip-flopping? Let me know. Because, I mean, it's one thing to say you want LeBron to be top 6, top 5, top 4, but who are you taking out of that top 6, top 4, top 5?
Ooh, as much as I love him, I got to go with Joel Embiid. I got to get rid of Joel Embiid goes a little bit lower. Joel Embiid goes a little bit lower. He's there. He's getting there. He's like right there. That 99.9%, and that 0.1 is just missing to get over that 100. Like, he's that 0.1. That 0.1. But Joel Embiid, to me, has not taken that next leap yet when you talk about playoff success over his career to get him to be above LeBron James and the resume he brings. I can't put that up for question. I can't compare the two. So yes, Joel Embiid had a hell of a year this past year. Honestly, in my opinion, probably should have been MVP. But
last 2 years.
Yes, for
sure.
He was
MVP conversation last 2 years.
You're right. You're absolutely right about that. But for sure last year, he should have won MVP. So even though he's getting better, he's there. I need him to take that extra level. He got to get that. He got to go past the second round in the playoffs. He hasn't done that yet. I don't think. I don't believe he's done that yet. I need him to take that next leap. Because at least when you look at the other players that are currently above him right now, they all have at least made the the conference finals for their teams or to the finals. Embiid ain't there yet. Embiid's not there yet. So I would put LeBron James at least over him. Anybody else in that list? Yeah, you could talk about it for sure. We can discuss that. But I think on top of talent, you have to have some winning component to go with that. And each of those players that are currently ranked in the top 6 outside of Joel Embiid, according to this current CBS list, they have that with them. They have that in their back pocket. So that's who I would replace LeBron James with, the king himself.
I respect it. I think that Joel. I think.
Yeah, I don't think it's out of.
No, go ahead, Kyle. I'm sorry.
No, I'll just say right quick. I don't think it's out of hand to have LeBron. You know, when you look at that particular with being, Embiid and even Luka. Luka showed out. You know, he's been showing out quite a bit in the playoffs. He showed out, like Josh said, he didn't get the job done fully, and he couldn't get the Warriors. I think if you put LeBron in that position, you're more likely to have at least a push. LeBron probably wouldn't have beat the Warriors either, but I think he would have gave them more of a chance. And I think we can't take what LeBron is doing. It's interesting. The coming Jordan got disrespected like this during while he's active. LeBron he's sort of getting the LeBron getting more and more of an argument their way about the way that he getting disrespected. And on a list like this, for him to be 7, I think that is a possible level of disrespect magnified is by his most strident followers. But I would put him at least, and it would be hard to put him over that next 4 because of the mix of individual and team success that they all have. But I think LeBron is. I don't think you take him out of a top 5 in the league until he shows a considerable fall off, and he hasn't.
Yeah, I make good points. It's tough, man. It speaks to maybe how good a hands the league is in moving forward once he actually does put the ball down.
Yeah, that's true.
There's so much talent in the league, and you can make a legitimate argument that Doncic and Jokic are, more valuable players now, but are they better players? The ranking is top 100. It's not most valuable 100. It's not who's most valuable to their team. It's who is the best 100 players in the league. And there's another ranking too, the ESPN ranking. I'm interested to see how that came out. I don't know if they released the top 25 yet in that ESPN ranking, but I'm interested to see where LeBron and all those guys fall. They're a lot similar to top 7, but will they be in the same order in that ranking as well?
Yeah. I would just do that.
Now let's say, how do y'all feel about Giannis being number 1? Any bones to pick with that one?
I don't argue that.
I mean, I think it just depends on your viewpoint. I think it just depends on how you view it. Because
Josh, would you have argued that after the title?
I don't know about after the title. I don't know. Because what gets it for me is that when you're talking about overall resume on top of the talent, just because of being a unicorn himself, it's hard for me to go past Kevin Durant. Like, it's hard for me to be like, oh, Kevin Durant is not a top 2 player in this league, considering not just what he's accomplished, but the fact that he is such a unicorn with his skill set and to be able to do it at the height that matches it. Like, that's hard for me to go past. Giannis.
But see, now you getting into, are you making this more a thing now, or is it just, are you looking at now who is at their best? If you talk about the career, Durant would be ahead of him, yeah. But
yeah, I'm not talking career. I'm not talking about career. If you were to talk about that specifically as the sole foundation, yeah, you're right. I'm talking about just a combination of skill set along with season success. And yes, Kevin Durant did get swept out of that first round, unfortunately, pretty bad. Not a good look. But just the fact that he was still able to average 25 plus at such an efficient rate from anywhere on the floor, considering what he had to deal with, I think that speaks volumes, considering the Milwaukee Bucks really didn't have much of a hiccup per se until that last playoff stretch when Chris Middleton was out. So
yeah, there you go. That thing I would say overall, I don't think enough has changed in Giannis's play to knock him off for that, because he was number one after. But so we're talking a year since. I don't know if enough has changed to say that he's not that guy still. But I think goes far this year, he did have to deal with, he ain't have to deal with as much, no. But he did quite a bit. And he still got his team farther than Durant. And he I don't know, he showed himself, he hasn't showed any sort of fallback or any sort of, deterioration in his game. I think he's still at his peak. So I don't argue it. I say you can make an argument for Durant. I think it's interesting that Curry is I'm more interested in Curry being number two actually than Giannis being the number one. Where are we at with Curry being two ahead of Durant and everybody's, and not just, definitely five as well, but a top seven at least. But is he number two? Because is that because of the Warriors winning again, or is that because I don't know.
I think I have no issue with Steph being there, and I think it is because of the Warriors winning, but it's because of how the Warriors won and how much he had to do with that, and how in year whatever it is that he's in, his game went to a whole nother level, specifically in the playoffs, without a Kevin Durant, without a 100% Klay Thompson. Having Draymond Green struggle the way he struggled in the playoffs, or at least particularly in the early going of the finals. Like, I don't remember exactly which game that was, but Steph Curry was, really throughout the whole series, he was going nuts, man. To the point where, it washed away all the criticism, I think, of him not having a Finals MVP award the previous times he's been there. So I don't have any problem with Steph being number two, not going into this season based off of what we just saw.
Yeah, I agree with that too. And Drew brought a good point about that Finals MVP does matter to the critics out there. So for him to be able to finally get that Finals MVP, I think that really solidified his stake when it comes to, to the rankings as well. Real briefly, when we talk about rankings and stuff, the Bulls have 4 players according to ESPN top 100 players that are ranked in the top 100. With Lonzo Ball being number 78, you got Nikola Vucevic at 57.
It's four actually. It's 4 actually in the. I think it's 5 in the ES. It's 4 in the ESPN. It's 5 in the CBS.
Right.
Excuse me.
Right.
So they got 5 in the CBS, but 4 Caruso CBS list as well, but only 4 in the ESPN. So the ESPN hating. Unless they got Caruso at 1.
Now, that would be wonderful. That'd be wonderful. Caruso fans will go crazy for that.
yeah. A lot of people got Caruso at 1, man.
Yeah, for sure. But we're not going to talk about CBS in this specific discussion. We're talking about ESPN's, and in ESPN's you got Lonzo Ball number 78, you got Vucevic at 57, and you got Zach and DeMar as neighbors with 28 and 27. Are these valid rankings for top players in the league? I mean, I'll be honest with you, I'm surprised that Vooch is that high. 57, I didn't think he would be that high, but the fact that he is interesting to me. That's very interesting to me. And the fact that they still hating on Debo and how they hating on Zach too, giving him the number only 27. I mean, I know the Bulls didn't go far from a playoff perspective last season, but the fact that they even made the playoffs, Zach and DeMar were both all-stars this past season. I think there's a case where they could have been slightly ranked higher. And especially when you're talking about carrying over from DeMar's ranking from anything Bleacher Report and with the offseason signings, worst offseason signing out there. They're saying that I think Bleacher Report even said that the Vucevic trade was the third most regrettable trade of the offseason of any offseason over the past few years. So clearly there's a lot of Bulls hate out there. But you guys, starting off with you, Kyle, is this a very fair ranking for these 4 players from ESPN's perspective?
I mean, if you look at the fact that both Zach and DeMar made the East All-Star, and if you talk about the combined All-Star group being about 30 players, give or take with the injury replacements and whatnot, it's not that far off, I would say. I think you could make an argument you could definitely make an argument for DeRozan being top 20 after this season. If you prioritize past season, because he was for such a period of the season to be like a top 5 MVP candidate. So why would you have him anywhere lower than 20 in a list to this season, unless you're saying like you just think he's going to be trashed this year, which he's not. But ESPN, I think it could be worse because again, we're talking about the ESPN list. I keep going back to the CBS list, but CBS had them in the 30s, and they had like 33. I just looked at it, so it could be worse. And with Zach, they actually had Zach 6. So I think Zach may be in that sort of mid-20s range. But I would put Mar until he shows himself to be lesser than that type of ranking to be a top 20 player right now. That's just how it's got to be, because he showed himself to be that. He carried the Bulls for much of the season, and that was a playoff team, a top 4 team for much of the season, but they fell apart, and I think, like you say, they get a lot of disrespect from that. But Bleacher Report ain't valid, not in my opinion, and most of those people who were dissing the DeRozan trade aren't valid, because they had no reason to be so disrespectful about the trade, but they did so anyway, and they look stupid about it. So, I think one thing though, I would, and looking at Lonzo's ranking, because we're going to go into it in a minute about his injury, that's that he can't control completely, and it sucks that he's got to go through all this. But one of the best abilities is availability, in my opinion, and him not he didn't factor as much into the last season as you. And I think it's reasonable to have him be in the top 100, but I wouldn't have put him under. I wouldn't put him over Caruso, even though Caruso dealt with injuries as well. But he was forced into the injury for his work. He was forced into it, and so I would actually put Caruso at current moment over Ball in any list like this. And so for ESPN to not have Caruso at all on their 100, I don't like that. Like I say, CBS respected them, but I don't. ESPN they probably got a few too many bald-headed dudes over there who disrespecting. They're going to hate on Caruso because they bald-headed. They don't want to bring attention to. They ain't bigging up the bald-headedness, Unfortunately, they should be aligned with him.
I agree with a lot of what you said, Kyle. I mean, we have to realize too that while Ball and Vucevic, while they moved back in the rankings, DeRozan and LaVine did move up. DeRozan was 45 last year. LaVine was 33. I'm with you though, Kyle. I think that if we're talking between DeRozan and LaVine, I think DeRozan had more of a case to be bumped up higher than he actually fell. I mean, this dude was second team All NBA, so you're saying that was one of the top 10 players in the league last year. Now you're saying he's 28. So I think that might speak to the fact that he's another year older, and people are, whoever made this list, whatever, ESPN obviously, but the individuals are expecting him to fall off from what was arguably his best season as a pro. And granted, it'll be hard. It's hard to imagine him being as clutch as he was last season, but I don't think there's going to be a steep drop-off. It may behoove the Bulls in a weird way that some of that workload in the clutch gets passed from DeRozan to LaVine if they're going to really kind of make this thing go this season, particularly with the injury to Lonzo Ball. But one side piece to this, and nobody, let me make this clear, nobody was expecting him to be in the top 100. But I just wonder when and if Patrick Williams may make a debut on this list in seasons to come. And if he is to make an appearance, like what leaps would he have made in order to do so? Because that's another key factor in what's going to be this Bulls season coming up.
P. Will got to show himself, and the possibility is there for him to be a level two-way player. If he's showing himself to impact the game on both ends of the court, and if he could score, between 12 and 16 points a game maybe, and get himself, at least 7-8 rebounds a game, and defend top front court players with consistency, I think P. Will could be in the 100. If not this coming year, the year after that, and it's going to be important to how he acquits himself on the Bulls. If the Bulls are still winning, and if he's showing himself the highlight player on the team, yeah, definitely going to happen. But he's going to be, he's got to be a two-way, an excellent two-way player, I think. And I think he could have that in him. But I would love to see him assert that himself in that way.
Yeah. Same here, and I think Billy Donovan can help with that, giving them more touches and not just kind of allowing him to be on the outskirts of the offense. But I mean, that's
he got to be more aggressive too, Drew.
Yeah,
it can't be just they can't always run stuff for him. He gonna have to take stuff sometime. And if he asserts himself, if Dale and Terry comes in there and he's more assertive than him, that's not gonna be a good look. He's got to outdo the rookie. Dalen looks like he gonna want to play for real, coming out the box, and there's gonna be other players, maybe a couple other players on the team who try to match that too. He's gotta be even more aggressive than those guys, and he's got to be confident and secure in the fact that he's been for a couple years now, and that this is the time for him to really control a winning team and not just be an accessory.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the hidden benefits of them drafting Dalen Terry, the fact that he's so boisterous and he's got that dog eat dog, I'm coming for your lunch type mentality, that he'll be able to push guys like Patrick Williams in practice to hopefully get him to where you're saying he this team needs to be.
Yeah, another person that could potentially help him out is Kawhi Leonard. Because did you see this man's size, bro? Ridiculously huge now. Dude's been in the gym like crazy. So that's someone you want to call Patrick Williams the Paul. Clark can help him out too. That being said,
well, they got him. They got him when Josh. They got him just right quick. They got him when he was 19. What he about? Is he 21 yet?
Just turned 21. Yeah.
Yeah, just turned 21. So yeah, he's Wheaties and keep developing. In a couple of years, he should be quite grown in a couple of years.
For sure. We're gonna end, slightly transition out to the last segment of the show, which is the unfortunate news of a ball not being on the court. Now we're not talking about basketball. You need a basketball court. You need a basketball to play on the basketball court. So we're not talking about basketball. We're talking about Alonzo. We're talking about a Ball brother, Alonzo Ball. Unfortunately for the Bulls, he is going to have another knee procedure for the torn meniscus that he suffered back early last season. That kept him out for over half a season. And he's expected to miss 4 to 6 weeks outside of that procedure, and then we'll see how things go from there. This is a tough situation for the Bulls to be in, unfortunately. It's not always good when you have to have another surgery to fix a medical issue. I mean, we had that with Derrick Rose here. So it's not, it's not a happy thing to hear about or go through. But in the Bulls' case, it could be potentially a blessing in disguise, because at least now you're getting it done over with out of the right now. Even though you would love to have him in training camp, you can have him for the stretch of the season. If he comes on healthier moving forward, you have him for the stretch of the season that, quite frankly, you didn't have last season. And we all know that with all the talent that's there, exactly, and the big trio that's going on and the talent that the Bulls are cultivating, at the end of the day, it does start and end with Lonzo Ball. You saw the impact that he brought to the team, not just offensively, but defensively as well, when it comes to impact on perimeter defense and the transition game that the Bulls struggled in. So that being said, just real briefly, you guys, your thoughts on hearing the news. Start off with Drew here, and what does this really mean for the Bulls moving forward?
Just given the tenor of the conversation that we've been having about Lonzo Ball this whole summer, it was kind of leaning toward him missing time anyway. And now it's just more so, okay, this is why he's missing time. This procedure can hopefully, clean out what's causing him discomfort whenever he tries to ramp up with his basketball activities, getting back to the court. But it puts more onus now on the improvement of Zach LaVine and Patrick Williams and Ayo Dosunmu. This Bulls team, we talked about their schedule when it came out. Man, in the first month of the season, they're going to play Boston 3 times, Toronto twice, and Miami, Cleveland, Brooklyn, and Philly once apiece. 9 of their games and to open the season, they're going to play 9 games in the first 15 days. So, although other teams obviously they're going to have to get their legs under them too. You would like, obviously, to have your starting point guard in place so that you can be at full strength from jump. But it just compounds everything else, all the pressure that's on Zach LaVine to, whether he sees it this way or not, live up to the $212 million max deal he was given. All the pressure on Patrick Williams now to make a Giannis, Euro step size leap in his 3rd year. The pressure now on Ayo Dosunmu or Goran Dragic or Alex Caruso to step into that point guard role as a starter, whoever that ends up being. Hopefully not Goran Dragic, knock on wood. But it just makes everything else. It tightens those margins of error for them so much more moving forward. And I personally don't think this is just speculative. I don't think we're going to see Lonzo Ball until like after January, even though his reevaluation date at the latest falls, I think, November 9th-ish. But, they're going to have their work cut out for them early on, right from the jump. And, we're going to see what this team is made of. And if all these social media hits, summertime, word of mouth, this guy's having a monster off season, this dude is dropping pull-up jumpers in Evan Mobley's face, yada, yada. We're going to see. Okay, well, you got to prove it now. So I don't know, man. Hopefully for them, they get off to a good start, and all of these things that they need to happen to be able to better fit inside that playoff window and not drop to the 7th, 8th, 9th, or 10th seed. We're going to see right off the bat, man.
Yeah, and another summer activity, we got to mention, Drew, is Eurobasket. And, we talk about Eurobasket. One of the players who, apparently played pretty well in that tournament this year was Goran Dragic, who the Bulls, when the Bulls first got him, it didn't set off too many headlines or spark, fireworks or anything, but it might have been a key acquisition. And, it was a proactive one by the Bulls, which is always good to see. So for them to have his veteran capabilities, if he's still staying sharp and, he's that Eurobasket tournament, they had a lot of, pro players in it. These top players we were just talking about, Giannis and Luka and all that were in it. Those guys were utilizing that to stay sharp, and hopefully that'll carry over into the season. And Goran could be guys who still has a bit in him, and in rotation he could show that for the Bulls, and also looking for more development for Io. And of course, hopefully Caruso can stay healthy and do his thing, because we know he's such an effective defender as well, and a lot of the same things that Ball does. But going back to last year again at the beginning, as you alluded to, Josh, it was the Bulls were deadly when you had Caruso and Ball and Io, and everybody was working. So hopefully at some point, down the line, some point by year, like Drew says, maybe January, this team will be whole again. And, like I said, wish the best for Lonzo, because he is an awfully talented player. And, we were all, I think, here on the show pretty pro, because the rumors been going back for a couple of years about the Bulls being interested in him, and we were all pretty much pro, acquiring Ball, and for it to work out as anything less than a successful acquisition for the Bulls would be unfortunate, if that was the case because of injury, it could have been the case for many other reasons, but, for it to be injury, we wouldn't want that at all. So hopefully Lonzo can get back healthy and, take his rightful spot as the starting point guard. And, just because you're injury prone, you don't have to be there for your whole career. We've seen players get over that. Steph Curry probably is one of the best examples of that in recent memory. He was pretty injury prone in his early career, but he got over that. So, hopefully the same can be said for Lonzo.
Yep, completely agree with all of that. And now we're at the point of the show where our boss got some pretty intensive news that he wanted to elaborate on. So, floor is yours.
Yeah, I'm not going. I'm not gonna take up too much time because we are already over 2 hours, man. So, in part because of my issues earlier, but thank you guys for being patient, and thank everybody, of course, who rocking with us, been rocking with us. And I just want to get out there that there's gonna be some changes to the show forward, and particularly the name of the show is going to change. So this is officially the last episode of Runnin with WARR, but long live Runnin with WARR. We're gonna move on to era of the show as Open Run. That's going to be the name of the show going forward in October. Thank you, Saul. October, we will be making our premiere. Stick with us, of course, on all of our platforms, social media, Twitter and everything, IG, and Snapchat is not Snapchat, guy. What's the TikTok? Yeah, so I'm sounding old. That we on the TikTok now, y'all. But all of our thank you, I saw reminded. All of our platforms, stay tuned with us for more on Open Run. We go forward. Open Run will be a lot like Running with WARR. It'll be different in some key ways. Primarily, the show will run as is seen here. Will feature Josh and Gabe, who unfortunately wasn't on tonight. He was keeping hope alive at Sox Park. Even hoping against hope that they do anything, but the Sox don't look not. But he'll be. Well, Saul just gave me an update. They're down 8-1. See, I'm good. I'm not wasting my time with the Sox anymore. I'm good. Just get Tony out of there, and we'll move on to 2023. But it ain't happening now. But anyway, Josh and Gabe will be main hosts. Our guys, our rotation of guys, our panel of guys who we've had, including our man in the middle right here, Drew, will still be involved. I'll still be involved. I'm producing the show, of course, with Saul, who, I should shout out Saul Rodriguez. You see him on the Bears coverage. He's producing the show as well, producing Running with WARR. He's on the boards for us tonight. And Chris and Steven, shout out to them as well. They've contributed so much to the show, especially started this show as a platform for me, Josh, and Chris, because we were essentially We Are Eagle Radio's basketball coverage a few years back. This is if anybody who don't remember the beginning of the show, this is pre-COVID. This is a long time. It's a thing we've had on WARR Media. So I'm very proud of this show, and I'm proud that we're showing and that I've been able to, utilize this platform for Josh, who deserves it very much, and for Chris, who deserves it very much. The show isn't the same without Chris involved in it as every day, but he has his interests. He has his things that he's want to do, and he's gonna be the quiz master, or he's gonna be, announcing roller derby and sports and everything. He's a man of many talents, and I appreciate him, and I support him in all he does. And like I say, he's always welcome to be on the show. And Drew, I could go pretty deep with Drew because me and Drew go back far. But this show helped me and his relationship and our friendship really spark up again after years of, us just being keeping up with each other on Facebook, and it's become more than that again. And it's like the old days when we first met each other at Southern Illinois. I'm really, really about what Drew has been able to do in the past year plus, and his platform has grown so much to the point where he has his own show now with Mark Gentile, and he's become a very trusted and authoritative voice on the Bulls, and he deserves that as well. So I'm just glad we can share him with others, and Drew, like I say, Drew definitely be on Open Run as well. Steven has been more of a member of the group. And hopefully we can have some time with him to come as well. I ain't hear from him this week, so I know, but maybe he screw it. But I'm making it official here on the show that he's welcome back as well on Open Run. So that's pretty much as far as y'all need to know, the audience. Open Run start October. We have a little hiatus here for a couple weeks. We're gonna get ourselves in gear and have our coverage ready for new season of the NBA. So our NBA preview stuff going forward, and we're gonna make sure we have a new show for you every week of the NBA season. So that's what the new era of Running with WARR. We're gonna keep doing our thing. Josh is gonna keep rocking, and Gabe is gonna keep rocking, and we're gonna be standing all behind them and making sure that this show goes as far as it can go.
Amen.
Preach to the choir. Preach. All right. That being said, man, yes, this was and is our last dance. So thank you for joining the dance with us. We appreciate you guys joining this last dance with us. Follow us on Twitter at WARR Media. We're all over the place. You see the other guys' Twitter names and Twitter handles. Be out there. Means matters. Look what Drew did. We out here, so obviously follow us. Give a shout out, as Kyle used to say. Give us that 5-star rating on the podcast platforms. And follow us on YouTube. Yep. And all social media and all other social media platforms. We're all over the place. Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. We coming up. We got TikTok, y'all. We coming up. So we're all over the place, man, and we're doing big things. And like Kyle said, we got a lot of big stuff coming your way. So definitely be on the lookout, get the notifications ready because we out here. That being said, man, thank you guys. And as in the words of Boss Man here, be bouncing.